You are 3 days old, and someone is about to decide if you get to live. An elder holds you up to the light, turning your tiny body, inspecting your limbs like a farmer checking livestock. Your mother watches from a distance, not allowed to interfere. In Sparta, babies do not belong to their parents. They belong to the state, and the state has standards. If your legs are crooked, you die. If your cry is too weak, you die. If anything about you suggests you might not become a perfect killing machine, they carry you to a cliff called the Apothete and leave you there for the wolves and the elements. No funeral, no grave, just a problem solved before it became expensive. But fortunately, you passed the test. Congratulations, and welcome to Sparta. But do not get comfortable. The next 30 years of your life will be a brutal, relentless grind designed to transform you from a screaming infant into one of the most feared warriors the ancient world has ever seen. Consider this your tutorial level. For the first 7 years, you live with your mother. This is the easy part, and it is not easy at all. While kids in Athens are learning poetry and playing with toys, you are being conditioned for pain. Your mother does not coddle you. She cannot afford to. Spartan mothers know what is coming, and they need you ready. Crying gets you nothing. Complaining gets you slapped. Toughness is the only currency that matters here. Your mother bathes you in wine instead of water. Not because Spartans love a good party, but because they believe it toughens the skin and weeds out the weak. If you have a seizure from the alcohol, well, you were not cut out for this anyway. Survival of the fittest starts in the bathtub. Then you turn 7, and everything ends. Soldiers arrive at your home and take you away. Not temporarily, forever. Your childhood is officially over, and you are now property of the Agage, the Spartan military training program that will consume every waking moment until you are 30 years old. That is 23 years of training. For comparison, modern special forces programs last maybe 2 to 3 years. The Spartans decided that was cute, but not nearly enough. You are thrown into a barracks with dozens of other boys your age. No beds. You sleep on the floor. On reeds you gathered yourself from the riverbank with your bare hands. One thin cloak. No shoes, no blankets. In Sparta, comfort is considered a weakness, and weaknesses get people killed. They barely feed you, not because food is scarce, but because hunger is part of the curriculum. You are expected to steal to supplement your rations. Get caught, and the beating is legendary. Not for stealing. Spartans do not care about theft. The beating is for being stupid enough to get caught. The lesson is simple. A warrior who cannot sneak cannot survive. There is an annual festival where boys compete to steal cheese from an altar while older men whip them mercilessly. The goal is to endure the lashes without crying out. Some boys died from the beatings. They were honored for their stoicism. Let that sink in. They beat children to death and called it education. This is level 1. You are a PAIS, a child trainee. Your instructors are called paidonomoi, and they carry whips, not as threats, as teaching tools. You will feel those whips often. The training at this stage is surprisingly diverse. Yes, there is physical conditioning, running, wrestling, swimming, climbing. But there is also music, dance, and something called laconism, the art of speaking in short, cutting phrases. Spartans do not give speeches. They give verbal jabs that end conversations. When a Persian messenger once told Sparta to surrender their weapons, the Spartan king replied with 2 words. Come take them. That is laconism, economy of words, maximum impact. Dance is actually taken seriously as combat training. Moving in rhythm with other soldiers, keeping formation, timing your strikes. All of it starts with dance. The philosopher Socrates himself said that the best dancers made the best soldiers. So picture yourself at 8 years old, starving, barefoot, exhausted, and now you have to nail the choreography or face the whip. Ancient Greece was wild. You train until your feet bleed. You train until your muscles scream. You train until exhaustion becomes your natural state. And then you train more, every single day. Around age 12, things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean weird. You enter the second stage of the Agage. You are now a paidiskos, an adolescent trainee. The physical demands intensify. You get exactly 1 cloak per year. 1. Whether it is the scorching Greek summer or the freezing winter, that single piece of fabric is your entire wardrobe. Your feet remain bare. The theory is that hardship builds character, and the Spartans have a lot of character to build. But here is where it gets awkward. At this age, older warriors start taking notice of younger trainees. And I mean taking notice in ways that would make modern HR departments spontaneously combust. The Spartans had a practice called pederasty, where older warriors formed mentoring relationships with younger boys. Now, how physical these relationships actually got is debated by historians to this day. Some ancient sources claim it was purely educational. Others suggest it was, let us say, more comprehensive. The older warrior was called the Erastes, the lover, and the younger one was the Eromenos, the beloved. Were Spartans required to be gay? Not exactly. The relationships were supposed to be about mentorship, about passing down warrior values and combat skills. But ancient Greece did not really think about sexuality the way we do. For them, it was less about orientation and more about roles and circumstances. You were expected to eventually marry a woman and make babies because Sparta needed more soldiers. But in the meantime, well, what happens in the barracks stays in the barracks. The funny part? Spartans actually bragged that their version was more respectable than what happened in other Greek cities. Xenophon, an ancient historian, claimed that Spartan mentors were only interested in the character of their young companions, not their bodies. Whether that was propaganda or reality, nobody knows for sure. Either way, by age 12, you either had an older warrior as your very close personal coach, or people started asking questions about why nobody wanted you. Not having a mentor was almost worse than having one. Moving on, the training continues. You learn the phalanx formation, the backbone of Greek warfare. You practice locking shields with the men beside you, moving as a single organism. Your shield protects the man to your left. His shield protects you. If you drop your shield, you have endangered everyone. This is why Spartan mothers famously told their sons to return with their shields or carried upon them. Come back victorious or come back dead. There is no third option. The shield itself weighs about 15 to 18 pounds, and you carry it for hours during drills. Your spear is around 8 feet long. Add a bronze armor that weighs another 50 pounds, and you are essentially lugging around half your body weight while trying to march in perfect formation. If your arms give out, the whole line weakens. If the line weakens, people die. No pressure. Around 18, you hit the final boss of adolescent training, the Crypteia. This is not a test. This is a hunt. The Crypteia was a secret rite of passage reserved for the most promising young Spartans. You are sent into the wilderness with nothing but a knife. Your mission? Survive. But that is not all. You are also expected to kill helots, the enslaved population that did all the farming and manual labor that kept Sparta running. The helots outnumbered Spartans by roughly 7 to 1, which meant constant fear of rebellion. The Crypteia kept them terrified. You sneak through the countryside at night, hunting the slaves who feed your city. If you are caught, you are on your own. The state will deny any knowledge of your activities. You are a ghost, an unofficial executioner. This is not just training. This is psychological conditioning. The Spartans wanted you to be comfortable with killing, to view it as routine, as necessary. During the day, you hide. During the night, you stalk. You live off the land, eating whatever you can find, sleeping wherever you can hide. A month of this, sometimes longer. By the end, either you are a stone-cold survivor or you are dead in a ditch somewhere. The Crypteia did not produce soldiers. It produced killers with no hesitation left. Survive the Crypteia, and you are ready for the final stage. At 20, you become a Hebontes, a young adult warrior. You are now a full soldier in the Spartan army, but you are still technically in training until age 30. You live in barracks with your unit. You eat all your meals at a communal mess hall called the Syssitia, where everyone contributes food and everyone eats the same thing. A famous dish is black broth, a stew made of pork, blood, vinegar, and salt. A visitor from another city once tried it and said, "Now I understand why Spartans are so willing to die." You can technically get married at this point, but you cannot live with your wife. You have to sneak out of the barracks at night to visit her, and you must be back before dawn. Some Spartan men had been married for years and had children before they ever saw their wife's face in daylight. The rationale? Your primary loyalty is to your brothers in arms, not to your family. Bonds with fellow soldiers save lives in battle. Attachments to wives and children might make you hesitate, and Spartans do not hesitate. Here is where the wedding customs get even stranger. On the wedding night, the bride shaves her head and dresses in men's clothing. Some historians think this helped the husband transition from years of exclusively male company. Others think it was just Sparta being Sparta. Either way, your romantic life is not exactly what you might call normal. At 30, you finally graduate. You are now a full Spartan citizen, a homoios, one of the equals. You can vote in the assembly, you can own property, you can finally live with your wife like a normal human being. But military service continues until you are 60 years old. Retirement comes late in Sparta, assuming it comes at all. The payout for all this suffering? You are now one of the most dangerous human beings on the planet. The Spartans were not the largest army in Greece. At their peak, they probably had around 5,000 to 6,000 full citizens capable of fighting. But man for man, no one could match them. Their phalanx was a wall of bronze and discipline that shattered every force it faced for generations. At the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC, 300 Spartans and a few thousand allies held off a Persian army of over 100,000 for 3 days. They knew they were going to die. They went anyway. When the Persians demanded they surrender their weapons, King Leonidas delivered the most Spartan response possible. Come and take them. They died to the last man. And 2,500 years later, we are still talking about them. That is the legacy of the Agoge. That is what 23 years of systematic brutality produces. Warriors who would rather die than retreat. Soldiers whose very name made enemies reconsider their life choices. But here is the part nobody talks about. The system eventually broke itself. By the time of Alexander the Great, about 150 years after Thermopylae, Sparta was a shadow of its former self. The citizen population had collapsed from roughly 8,000 warriors to fewer than 1,000. The brutal training, the refusal to adapt, the obsession with purity, it all caught up with them. Other Greek cities learned Spartan tactics and invented new ones. The Thebans created the sacred band, an elite unit of 150 pairs of lovers, and they crushed the Spartans at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC. It was the first time a Spartan army had been decisively defeated in pitched battle. The legend died that day. You started this journey as a 3-day-old infant being inspected for defects. You survived the cliff, you survived the agage, you survived the crypteia. You became a weapon wrapped in human skin. And in the end, even weapons break. If you stayed until the end, share your opinion in the comments. Your feedback helps us get better every time. Leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and watch the next video on your screen. Big hug.